saw the world from the other side, but it's alright.
Okay.
I see you now.
Okay. So this should be painless. So, so you do have some stories that I recall having to do with the hospital. Some of them, you said not that many of your own, but you do have some that's you've heard from other people as well, or?
I mean, well, just from them, a couple, yeah.
Yeah, because I even have one also having to do with the hospital, and my mom unit's second husband when he transitioned out, and the nurse was there when he breathed his last breath, and saw something like a light orb or something come out of his chest and then go through the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so wait, yeah, so there's been other stories that I've read having to do with that, but it's good to get someone's personal account as part of the paranormal report. So you can start sharing whenever you're ready.
Well, for me, I work at a pretty big hospital out in California, Southern California. And the department that I work in, it's literally underground. It was like an old, I guess you can call it like a fouling room, and they turned it into a nurse's clinic. I don't know why, but yeah. So there's no windows down there. It's pretty creepy down there. But I would always experience the clocks are fixed to the wall, but I would always like catch when the clocks would literally fly off the wall. Nobody's touching it. Nobody's around it. The clocks just fly off the wall. And I noticed it. For me, I noticed it because it was always the one that I used to keep count if I didn't have my watch or something like that. When I was working with a patient, I'm able to like look at it quickly to see, to keep count pretty much. But for whatever reason, it would always fly off the wall. And I was just like, I don't understand how, because it's like I said, it's fixed to the wall with screws. So after a while, we just kind of like kept it down. We didn't put it back on the wall, but it would like roll off of the counter that it was on. And I was just like, okay, I'm done with the whole clock thing. So I was just like, let me just wear my watch. And for me, I was always one of the last people in my on my shift, because it's a day shift. After a certain time, there's nobody there. Everything is like motion censored. So when there's no motion, the lights will go out, but then they would come back on. I would hear the doors like open and close. You would know when it's like our janitor service, because they have these really big carts that and the noise is loud. So you would just hear the doors open and close, but nobody would appear.
Oh, wow. That's impressive stories.
Yeah.
For a second, when I told Biden, you went, wow. I'm like, this is kind of a double wow. So, in other words, when the clock came off the wall, it would just pull the screws out of the wall as well?
Well, it was attached to like a screw in the wall, and it's one of those ones that you kind of like have to literally like put on top of it, and there's like a small piece. You'll hear like the click to know that it's yeah, and it would just always fly off the wall. Nobody's around, nobody's touching it. But there was, like I said, a couple of times where I actually saw it just like fall off the wall, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going on my break. I'm not doing this today.
Well, obviously something was going on. Now, as far as when you were down there, did you feel any, because you said that you would end up being the last person there at the end of the shift a lot of the time. And how do you, well, other than, you had enough of it and you leave. Now, did you actually feel like there was someone down there with you at times?
Absolutely. There was times, well, not there was times, all the times where something felt weird, I would always get these chills down my body, and it always felt like somebody is watching me, but there's no one down there. So
Right.
it's just me. And then on the other side of the building, you have to kind of go through double doors, was like our radiation and cancer center. So it's, and they know that after a certain time, we close, our doors are locked, our lights are off, and it's just my last bit of prepping for the next day. But that's something that I always experience. Another thing that I would always experience is being in the room with the patients. Myself and another coworker, we would always hear someone call our names, and it's like we made it a point to won't call out to each other unless it's an emergency. So I'm working with the patient and I hear someone call my name. They call me by Jashari. They don't go by Jay because I go by that name in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm opening the door and there's like nobody around, and I was just like, okay. So I waited a little while. The first person to see, I'm like, hey, did you call me? She's like, no. I was like, did you hear somebody call me? She's like, no, nobody has been around. And I was just like, huh, okay. And then I close the door and I go back to my patient and I hear it again, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know if somebody's like playing with me, but every time I open the door, there's no one there. And my coworker, Vicky, she would always hear someone call her name as well. And I was just like, no, nobody said anything. And there would be times where I would be sitting there doing my charting, and she would come out of the room like, hey, did you call me? No. She was like, somebody really called my name. And I was like, no one's here.
So, well, was it like a woman's voice calling your name then?
It sounded like it was definitely a woman, but it sounded like someone who was maybe like small in size.
Oh,
Interesting. Now, this ward was primarily adults in that ward as patients?
Yes. This one was, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, this one was primarily adults. On the floors above us, like the third and fourth floors, that's where you would find like family medicine, and you would possibly have like kids to go there, but we have like a full pediatric building. So it was rare that kids were in there unless they came with like their parents for an appointment or something.
Wow. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was really interested when you said that you were nursing. I said, I've read a lot of stories about interesting things, and since I'm doing this show, and a lot of my work is very whole, encompasses pretty much everything, you might as well say. So just the paranormal stuff isn't an unusual subject for me. But as far as like with the clock, you said that there were other witnesses down there who would see the clock, would hear the clock come off the wall or whatever. And what were their attitudes? They're just like, no one's going to hang around with you so that you were the last person down there.
Well, they would just they would look and chalk like, okay. And then we even had a person to kind of like name the clock. I can't remember what she named the clock. And I was like, you're just going to give what? What is happening? Why did you give this a name? But there was a time where she walked by and the clock just flew off in front of her. And I said, let me get away from you because I don't know what's happening right now. But
well, I'm not going to, I definitely have a sense of what it is, but I don't think we need to get into muscle testing or verifications or anything like that, which is normally what I would do during sessions. Like, yeah, there's someone down there, this individual, died or something some years ago, and they worked down there during the time it was a clerical office and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And just sometimes these things are either being impish, and that's another way of feeding also, when they creep you out, you just kind of give off a certain kind of essence, and they'll keep doing it if they can keep getting, a person to feel, kind of creeped by it. Mm-hmm. So, well, that's a really good story. Now, and the one, as far as I hear, hearing the voice calling your name, so it was primarily was you and the other nurse that was experiencing the other one having to do with someone calling your name?
Yes, because we have like I think it's 2 departments that's in that nurse clinic space, but it was just always me and her that the names would be called, and I was just like, that's interesting, but I really didn't pay it any mind. I would just go back to working with my patients, but it was for me
Okay.
weird for somebody to, like I said, call me by that name, because I was just like, I mean, well, not weird, but I usually go by Jabe. So it's just like for somebody like a child to be like, oh, Jashari. And I was just like, oh.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, did you ever have any patients talk about any oddities or anything like that?
No, not really.
That's interesting.
There was,
Yeah, go ahead, though.
I mean, no oddities for me. There was just patients that I would have where it's just like you have a certain time frame that you're supposed to like spend with patients or whatever, but there were certain patients that would just kind of draw me in, and I'm spending, upwards to an hour and almost getting in trouble because I've spent too much time with the patient or things of that sort, but nothing from them that they've ever heard.
Yeah, because I've heard and I've read some stories having to do with just actually people seeing apparitions, patients seeing like nurses who were wearing really old style clothing and stuff like that, old style uniforms and stories like that. So those are the primary, the 2 primary stories that you have.
Okay.
So what else do you have?
Like I said, I don't have too many stories. And then the time that they sent me off to like our big hospital to help out during the height of the season, I did a lot of, I was in a ICU unit. So that I would have to do a lot of stuff to where I would have to go downstairs, but going downstairs meant crossing through the building that the morgue was in to get to the pharmacy that was like a staff pharmacy. But that one down there, it just always felt like something was touching you, or you have like this, it goes from being like a normal room temperature to practically like it felt like somebody is just, you're in a freezer. I don't know if they do it that way on purpose, but it was just that one spot where like the morgue was, and I would always get chills going down there. Not to say like the morgue scares me or anything, but you can just, it gave me like a sense of, let me hurry up and get out of here because it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah. Well, one of the things having to do with this type of paranormal experiences, there's a lot of talk about cold spots in areas where there's literally, they call it hauntings or whatever, which I guess for lack of a better word for it, is like the area is haunted. And if they're bringing in, people's remains, and there are times that the soul or the spirit hangs around their remains for a certain amount of time.
Oh, wow.
So it sounds like, that's, there's a bit of that going on as well. But it seems like there's something else. If you, I don't know if the cold spot was in one particular area that you would have to pass through. In other words, like, a certain area in the hallway or whatever, but generally in that one area speaks of something having to do with doorways and things like that, that things come in and out. But a lot of times when people feel that kind of chill, there's usually some, some spirit of consciousness there. Now, when I'm doing this, this is this particular show, I guess it's called show. It's not about, just creeping everybody out, because I've dealt with this stuff since I was a kid. And one of the things I found over time that they have a little feeling almost like it's almost like a little company that that these things on the other side belong to. And certain ones they do, they will dress up, I guess we'll call them dress up like grudge girls, or dress up like the woman in white, or dress up like some dude in cloaks or whatever, and and with a white face with hollow eyes and all of that. And found like it's almost like going to any kind of company, and certain groups have their outfit that they use, and the whole idea is basically to drum up this essence, the fear that people feel, or the discomfort gives off a certain type of energy. And you probably, when you feel uncomfortable, you kind of feel like it's like if your hair is standing up on end or something like that, even if you're not really, really frightened, but something's just creeping you out. Just enough to get your body feeling a certain way. That is considered to be essence to them, and that's what they're collecting. And usually they will stop messing with individuals who don't fear them. But if you have an office where there's more than a couple of you in there, they're going to find, a few of them, if not most of them, who will feel some kind of way. So they'll keep it up, even if you're not afraid of them. They'll keep doing these types of things just to get that, that bit of, feeding from the people who, that are more afraid, I should say. Yeah. But, no, I appreciate you doing this. It's really good stuff.
Of course.
Well, it doesn't seem like you have any, issues as far as like, not wanting to be known that you're telling stories. But the amount of stories that are out there these days are a lot more than there were, like 15 years ago. It's amazing the number of stories that people are coming out and actually talking about this stuff now. So, you're not alone in, in your experiences. And again, I totally appreciate you doing this.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. My pleasure. Yeah.
If you have any other stories, feel free.
Yeah. And I would talk to other nurses when I would be at the big hospital, and they would kind of say the same thing. Like they would, feel something where it's like super hot on their unit, and they would have a chill, or it'd get super cold, or feel like someone's tapping them on their shoulder while they're working. And they know that it's just them and a patient who is basically on a machine. So there's nobody in the room but them, but you're feeling someone like constantly like tap you on your shoulder. But I'm just like, yeah.
Wow. Now, would the person generally be in a coma or something, or unconscious?
Yeah, usually most of our patients who are on our ICU were on like ventilators, and they were literally breathing by a machine. So
well, some of it sounds like someone who's outside of their body. Their body is on the ventilator, but they're separated from it, and it sounds like they get your attention when they're tapping you on the shoulder.
Right.
So then, then trying to scare you, even though that's not the most comfortable thing. But I'm getting more that there's a lot of that at times when people are in comas. They'll be hanging around their physical body. Most of the time. Sometimes they go other places and visit family members or something like that, because you'll hear stories like that. Even with my grandma, when she was about a couple days away from passing, she was like 99 years old at the time. And she literally showed up at our Christmas dinner. And I have, there's a lot of seers in my family. And one in particular, she starts to cock her head to the side, meaning somebody's talking to her while we're at the table. And then she said, it's the grandma is here. And that she was coming by to say her goodbyes and whatever. And even something just as interesting as asking her to eat some of my food for her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because she liked my cooking. So, so if it was between, my wife at the time and myself, and she's visiting, and so we'll say, dinner's ready. She said, who cooked? And if it was me, she said, I'll have some then. If it was the wife, she said, no, thank you. So,
Wow.
it's an interesting realm, and it's not anything I honestly to be afraid of once you realize, oh, these guys, they're just out there. They're like a little company out there that, to gather the essence. Reminds you a lot of that movie, Monsters, Inc.,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where they come in, they scare the kid and they have to fill this tank up with the screams.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but actually they are filling something up, but it fills up with people's tension and their fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never saw the world from the other side, but it's alright. Sailing on a ship through the darkened skies, let's take a ride. Ooh, waving through the crowd on the other side. Ooh, waving through the wall from this cosmic ride. Baby, it's alright.
Not appeared yet, so okay.
Baby, it's alright.
Yeah, so certain individuals are more susceptible. They'll show up more regularly because, this guy is, this guy puts out, this woman puts out. Every time I show up, she's going to get freaked out and I'm going to fill my tank. So, but anyway, with all that, again, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
And again, don't be shy if you have a new story, even if you heard it from someone else or whatever.
Yes. I always have questions, and every time I ask someone a question, I'm always, you need to talk to Chief, and I'm just like, okay, that's fine.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Jay, thank you again.
Absolutely. Have a good one. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.